At the start of the movie, a peculiar green substance is injected into an egg yolk in a lab. Within seconds, an exact duplicate of the original yolk forms. Meanwhile, in Hollywood, famed celebrity Elizabeth Sparkles finally receives her long-awaited star on the Walk of Fame. During the first year, fans flock to admire it, but as time passes, people lose interest. The star begins to crack, and no one cares to repair it. As Elizabeth ages, her career slows down. Once in high demand, she now struggles to get roles, eventually becoming the host of an aerobics show. One day, while trying to use the restroom, she discovers the women's restroom is out of order, and she decides to use the men's instead. While in a stall, she overhears Harvey, the network's president, using the restroom and having a conversation on the phone. He complains about Elizabeth's age, saying the show needs someone younger and fresher. After Harvey leaves, Elizabeth steps out, staring at herself in the mirror, processing the painful reality of what she just heard. Later that day, Harvey tries to break the news to her during lunch, though he remains vague, lacking the courage to say what he really thinks. But she got the message. Driving home, Elizabeth becomes distracted by the sight of her billboard being removed. At that moment, another car crashes into her, causing a serious accident. At the hospital, the doctor informs her that she is miraculously unscathed. As he looks at her profile, he notices it's her birthday and wishes her well, but this small gesture triggers a breakdown in Elizabeth. After the doctor leaves, a nurse returns to conduct a final exam. After examining her spine, he cryptically tells her she's the perfect candidate. When he hands back her jacket, Elizabeth finds a mysterious package in the pocket containing a flash drive labeled The Substance along with a telephone number and the note saying, "It changed my life." As Elizabeth leaves the hospital, she's approached by Fred, an old schoolmate who compliments her on how beautiful she still looks and gives her his number. Later, at home, Elizabeth watches the contents of the flash drive. The video explains that the substance allows users to live as a younger, enhanced version of themselves for 7 days at a time, switching between young and old bodies. Skeptical, Elizabeth dismisses it as a scam and throws the flash drive away. That evening, she drinks heavily at a bar but quickly feels ill, vomiting after realizing alcohol doesn't agree with her like it used to. Frustrated, she throws a snow globe at a framed photo of her younger self, but ultimately retrieves the flash drive and calls the number. A mysterious voice gives her an address and gets her own in return before abruptly hanging up. The next morning, Elizabeth sees a casting call in the newspaper for a show looking for the next Elizabeth. Further rubbing salt in her wounds. Feeling dejected, she checks her mail and finds a black envelope containing only a card with the number 503. Following the directions from the mysterious voice, she heads to a sketchy alleyway and uses the card to enter a dark building. Inside, she finds a deposit box with her number, which contains a cardboard box. Returning home, Elizabeth opens the box to reveal a kit containing the substance, an activator, a stabilizer, a switch, and special food. The instructions are clear. Activate once, stabilize every day, switch bodies every 7 days, and always remember that she's still herself, no matter the body. Curious but hesitant, Elizabeth examines her body in the mirror before injecting herself with the green liquid. At first, nothing happens, but then intense pain overtakes her, and she collapses, with her body writhing on the floor. As strange bulges form on her back and her pupils duplicate, a massive slit appears in her body, and a whole new, younger version of Elizabeth emerges. Standing in front of the mirror, she's amazed by her youthful appearance. However, when she looks closer, she sees her original green eyes peeking through the blue ones of her new body. After vomiting some green substances, the new Elizabeth seals up the old body and feeds it the special food packs provided in the kit. The next day, the rejuvenated Elizabeth, now going by Sue, experiences a nosebleed and a strange screeching sound in her ears. Realizing she needs to stabilize, she uses the kit to extract fluid from her old body's spine and injects it into her new one, immediately stopping the nosebleed and noise. Feeling revitalized, Sue buys new clothes and goes to the audition, where Harvey, impressed by her youthful beauty, hires her on the spot. However, Sue negotiates that she will only work every other week, citing the need to care for her ailing mother. Desperate to have her on his show, Harvey agrees. Sue enjoys the spotlight, her new billboard featuring her fresh, youthful face. She diligently stabilizes her body daily, but leaves the old Elizabeth's body lying on the bathroom floor. At the end of the week, Sue uses the switch to perform the body exchange, a process where their blood is transferred between them. When Elizabeth awakens in her old body, she immediately feels the pain from the scar on her back. Her return to the station is met with indifference as Harvey hands her a box of her belongings and says a nonchalant goodbye. The week spent as Elizabeth is mundane and boring compared to Sue's vibrant life. And she can't wait for the next switch. Every week, Elizabeth ensures she stabilizes the bodies, receiving black envelopes when her refill kits are ready for pickup, prompting more visits to the shady alley. During one of Sue's weeks, she decides to build a secret hideout for Elizabeth's body behind a hollow wall in her bathroom. A neighbor complains about the noise, but is instantly smitten with Sue's beauty when she answers the door. Sue tells him that Elizabeth no longer stays there and returns inside once the secret room is completed. Sue stashes Elizabeth's body and her old poster inside, eager to fully embrace her new life. Sue's week is filled with TV show success and partying. She even brings a man home one night, but their fun is interrupted when her nose starts bleeding again, signaling the end of her week. Rather than switching bodies as she should, Sue breaks the rules, reusing a stabilizer tube to extract more fluid from Elizabeth's body, allowing her to extend her time as Sue. Feeling better, she returns to her guest, but is plagued by a nightmare where her body unzips, spilling blood and organs everywhere. When she finally switches bodies, Elizabeth awakens to the mess Sue left behind and finds a note from the man who plans to return for his bike later. Horrified, Elizabeth notices that part of her hand now looks significantly older, a consequence of Sue's extended time. Panicking, Elizabeth calls the number from the flash drive, but the mysterious voice tells her that nothing can fix this. When she tries to blame Sue, the voice reminds her that Sue isn't a separate person, but an extension of herself. Distraught, Elizabeth cleans up the apartment, turns on the TV, and watches Sue hosting her show. The sight of her young, beautiful self irritates her, and she turns it off. The neighbor knocks again, trying to ask her out, but Elizabeth ignores him. As Elizabeth continues using the substance, she becomes more disillusioned. During one of her visits to the alley for her refill, she hears a noise that sounds suspiciously like Sue, terrifying her. She runs to a nearby diner to hide, keeping her aging hand concealed in a glove. There, an old man watched her, mentioning how long 7 days can feel. Elizabeth notices he has the same birthmark as the nurse who gave her the flash drive, confirming that the nurse was this man's younger body. He shares his experience with the substance, explaining how isolating it becomes over time and how difficult it is to remember that both bodies matter. Shaken, Elizabeth returns to her apartment, where she bumps into the man who came for his bike. He yells at her, another reminder of how people now perceive her aging body. Desperate for comfort, she calls Fred and agrees to go on a date. However, as she gets ready, she finds herself copying Sue's makeup style, but still feels inadequate when she sees Sue's billboard. In a moment of despair, she messes up her makeup and hair in frustration and cancels the date, ignoring Fred's texts. The following week, while filming her show, Sue panics when she feels a strange bulge on her body. Though it disappears when she checks, the experience leaves her rattled. Later, when reviewing the footage on a big screen, Sue feels exposed and rushes to her dressing room. She eventually pushes the bulge through her body, pulling out a chicken leg. She eventually wakes up, only to later find food leftovers in the house left by Elizabeth, who's been eating to cope with her depression. Sue angrily calls the number to complain, feeling that her time is being wasted while Elizabeth's life spirals into depression. But once more, the voice tells her that she and Elizabeth are one and the same person. Sue eventually becomes extremely successful and is offered the opportunity to host a New Year's Eve special. Thrilled, she secretly continues taking fluid from her old body, Elizabeth, to maintain her younger form. Over time, Sue repeatedly drains Elizabeth's spine fluid, causing severe damage to the old body, leaving it decrepit and barely able to move. When Elizabeth finally takes control again, she is horrified by her condition, but when given the option to cancel the process and stop Sue, she refuses, valuing the success they've gained as Sue. Despite their shared identity, the conflict between the two personalities grows, with Elizabeth feeling trapped in her aging, frail body while Sue enjoys the limelight. One night, while Sue is living out her fame on TV, Elizabeth cooks large amounts of food, trying to cope with her loneliness. As she listens to Sue mocking her during a television interview, Elizabeth lashes out, destroying her surroundings. She tries to remind Sue to control herself, but to no avail. Sue, finally back in control, finds the apartment in disarray and, in a fit of anger, decides to take even more fluid from Elizabeth, desperate to avoid ever changing back. She drains so much fluid that the hole on Elizabeth's back becomes infected and oozes dark, necrotic fluid. Sue's actions come with consequences. She's no longer able to stabilize properly, and her body begins to deteriorate. Her nose starts bleeding once again, and her physical form rapidly declines. Desperate to hold on to her appearance and position, Sue calls the mysterious voice for help, but is told that the fluid needs time to regenerate and she must switch bodies. Reluctantly, she finally changes back into Elizabeth, but by now, the old body is in such a miserable state that Elizabeth can barely function. The switch is painful, and Elizabeth finds herself horrified by her appearance. She's now an abomination, struggling to move and filled with bitterness towards Sue. Determined to end the cycle, Elizabeth calls the number from the flash drive and chooses to cancel the experience. She retrieves her old poster from the hidden room, attempting to reclaim her identity. However, before fully canceling the process, she will have to inject some black termination fluid into Sue's body. However, Elizabeth couldn't complete the process, as a voice kept asking her if this was what she actually wanted. So, she stops, just short of finishing the injection, thereby leaving both of them alive. When Sue awakens after the incomplete injection, she is horrified by the state of her body and the infected wound on her back. Enraged, especially after seeing the termination injection, she attacks Elizabeth, kicking her and smashing her head into a mirror, declaring that they are one and the same while inflicting brutal harm. Elizabeth, severely beaten, tries to escape, but Sue's relentless assault continues until she kills her other half. Despite her victory, Sue is not free from the consequences of her actions. Her body continues to deteriorate, and she realizes too late that the damage is irreversible. Her teeth, nails, and even parts of her ears begin to fall off, and she panics. Desperate to fix her appearance in time for the New Year's Eve show, Sue injects herself with the green activation liquid in a last-ditch attempt to create a new body, but the results are disastrous. Instead of transforming into a beautiful version of herself, Sue's body mutates into a horrifying, deformed creature that combines elements of both her and Elizabeth. With Elizabeth's face grotesquely attached to the back of the new body, Sue, who is now a monstrous hybrid known as Elisa Sue, throws on her show dress and attempts to hide her deformities by crafting a mask out of Elizabeth's old poster. Elisa Sue makes her way to the TV station, imagining that the world still adores her, but her delusions are quickly shattered. When the show's lights come on, and the audience sees the monstrous creature standing in Sue's place, they react with horror. Elisa's mask falls off, revealing her mutilated face, and she begins vomiting body parts. The crowd, disgusted and terrified, turns on her, shouting insults and calling her a freak. They physically assault her, pushing her around until one man hits her with a microphone stand, decapitating her. Yet even this doesn't stop the nightmare. Her head regenerates, though her body continues to fall apart, spraying blood everywhere and soaking the horrified crowd. In a desperate bid to escape, Elisa Sue flees from the station, but her body collapses, exploding into thousands of gory pieces. The only part of her that remains is Elizabeth's face, which crawls out of the wreckage, inching its way to her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. There, as a twisted remnant of her former self, she briefly reminisces about her glory days before melting away completely. By the next morning, the street is cleaned as if nothing had happened, with Elizabeth's final act fading into obscurity, like another stain washed away by time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next recap.